Laetitia, the joy of love. The Year Amoris Laetitia Family is an initiative of Pope Francis which aims to reach every family around the world through several spiritual, pastoral, and cultural proposals that can be implemented within parishes, dioceses, universities, ecclesial movements, and family associations. As we count down to the meeting of families in Rome and the celebration of families around the world, we sat down with Dr. Matthew Moore, SALT, in search of inspiration for aspiring families. Hi, I'm Tessa Habet with this week's news feature. This feature is brought to you by Brothers Habet Limited.
Mama Marvel Month is here at Brothers Habet and Habet. And for being so marvelous, all mamas get super discounts all month. 15 to 30% off our signature Moen lineup. So come on down to Habet or Brothers Habet today and treat your mama marvel. Wishing all mamas a marvelous Mother's Day.
My name is Dr. Matthew Moore. I am married to my wonderful wife, Joanna. Joanna and I have 5 children, and we homeschool them. And we try to live a good family life. We love our family life. I'm also a cradle Catholic, and I belong to Most Precious Blood Church in Corpus Christi, Texas. I am assistant professor of philosophy at Del Mar College. I've taught college for the last 23 or 24 years in Corpus Christi, Texas. That's where I reside. I'm from the University of St. Thomas in Houston in philosophy. I've lectured, in many different places over the 23 or 24 years that I've been teaching college. And I regularly volunteer for the church. Joanna and I and our family are members of Our Lady's Society. This is the SALT community that has been serving here in Belize for 40 or so, maybe 50 years. And that's a very important part of our family life. Ephesians 5, the Bible verse from St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians. And St. Paul begins by about verse 5 of chapter 5. He begins by laying out 2 ways of life, the way of light and the way of darkness. And we can all think of when, like, we're in a dark room or something where we're stumbling around but we can't see, and St. Paul associates that with evil. And so when we don't know and we don't have the strength of Christ, the grace of Christ, oftentimes we give ourselves over to evil ways. And so the Ephesians have been given baptism and the gospel of Christ, and so they can live in Christ and seek flourishing and happy human lives in Him. And it's in the middle of this kind of great contrast between the way of wisdom versus the way of foolishness, or the way of light versus the way of blindness, he introduces a passage that deals with marriage and the family, and the great comparison between Christ and the church and the husband and the wife. So we all know, that's one of the great passages where the church is seen as the bride of Christ. And so St. Paul looks at how Christ treats the church, and he recommends to husbands to treat their wives that way. And he looks at how the church responds to Christ, and and he draws some parallels for how wives should treat their husbands. And so there's an instruction for husbands and there's an instruction for wives. And he begins with wives. He says, wives, be subordinate to your husbands as to the Lord. And so he does affirm the headship of the male in the marital institution and in family life, the headship of the father. So that throws into kind of a focus the role of the father, and then he gives some instructions to the father specifically about how he's to use that headship, and it's meant to be used for the service of the wife and the children. So it's not something to be lorded over them. And specifically, St. Paul talks about how Christ offers himself up. He offers himself up to God the Father so that the church, his bride, may be presented to God the Father without spot or wrinkle. And so the Father is meant to when he takes possession of a wife and she him, and they begin to belong to each other, he's meant to give himself in following Christ so that the wife and children, their children, can have safe passage through this world and remain as much as possible without spot or wrinkle in being presented to God the Father. Ephesians 5 and the flight to Egypt provide the Father is some light and guidance in terms of kind of the fundamental teaching in terms of which he can see his role as a father. Every day when I go to work, and every day when I try to provide a home, and every day when I try to direct my my family life, I am walking a donkey. I'm walking the donkey like Joseph did. So he can see himself consistently in that way. And that becomes kind of an overarching truth for the father in his life. A lot of times you have what's called a trophy husband, where the woman marries the husband in order, to get him to enable her to fulfill her kind of dreams that she had envisioned prior to marriage, of having, lots of things or being worldly in certain ways. And so as he's working, she takes that, but she doesn't, what I call it, she doesn't stay on the donkey. She takes his protection, but then strays far from it. And this is also another disruption or harm to the family unit, and it's ultimately the children who will suffer, but the marriage will suffer as well. So as the father provides, so the mother must receive his providence and seek holiness in a full human life within whatever it is that the father provides, whether it's in Benke or whether it's in Belize City or whether it's in Belma Pond, those things can differ. But wherever it is, and that's what the mother must accept, and the two of them, the father and mother, must make life with whatever it is that they have, and for the sake of their children and for the sake of the happiness of their family. it's really fathers and mothers at this point. You know, when thinking of children, you know, their role as prophets. You know, we're all baptized priest, prophet, and king, and so all of the future Christian life is always a living out of the baptismal grace and promises. And so priest, prophet, and king take a specific dimension once a child of God, let's say, you know, a man takes on the new role of the husband, and you know, then a husband takes on the new role of the father. So those are two additional things. The submission of the wife is never to just the man. It's the submission of the wife to the husband, right? And so the husband is the one. If a man is going to act as a husband, he's going to care for his family. The initiative begins with the husband and father, and so that's why he's kind of a principal or primary person that, you know, the others submit to as well, but they're really submitting to him in taking on this mission from God. So they really form a team. The family forms a team which is supposed to serve the holiness of the members of the family. Prophetic role that we're given through baptism, when it comes to a father and mother, you know, and they need to talk together, prophecy has to do with protection of the morals of the people. And we think of the Old Testament prophets, you know, and so prophecy has to do with thinking ahead and foreseeing that, look, we need to not do this, otherwise we're going to get into these problems or have these moral struggles, or we need to look out for our children. They're involved in this issue or that, or when our children have a phone, or, you know, or something like that, where we're thinking ahead and trying to see where is it that the devil is going to try to get into our children's lives. So there's a verse that says in the Bible, St. Paul teaches it, be sober and alert. The devil is prowling like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. And parents have to extend that and say, the devil is prowling like a roaring lion, looking to devour our children. We need to resist him, solid in our faith. And so that's their role as prophet. The king dimension takes on an element of governance, right? And the governance of the family has to do with, and this is where the headship of the male cannot be based on machismo or something like that. The headship of the man has to rise to his calling, and so the wife and the father, you know, oftentimes the things that the mothers say will not take on their full importance. The things that the mothers say to the children will not take on their full weight if the father doesn't back it. You know, so the father comes in and backs it, and that gives the things that the mother says a full authority. Oftentimes when I come home from work, my wife will tell me, look, you need to talk to so-and-so. When you were gone, so-and-so was challenging me, you know, one of the kids. And so I will, but the more that happens, the more unity that comes between the father and mother, the unity and governance over the children, you know, the more the parents are exercising their role as king, their baptismal role as king within their own family, because the king governs. And then the other is to provide, right? So the priest, prophet, and king. And when we're priests, we offer ourselves up. And we talked about this, you know, in Ephesians 5, the husband offers himself up, the wife offers herself up, you know, and gives a little deference to the father, in his leadership role within the family. But she also steers it. I mean, that doesn't mean that the father makes all the decisions on his own. He has to consult with the wife, but in some ways, once a decision is made, he really has to back it with his paternal authority, his fatherly authority, and he has to ensure it and enforce it within his family. And so the mother and father both offer themselves up for the good of their children. In this way, you can see the father oftentimes will be the breadwinner. And so a lot of times we look at providing for the family as just a financial thing. But, remember, the family, each person is spirit, soul, and body. St. Paul teaches that. Spirit, soul, and body. And so when we think of governing, providing, protecting, we have to think of governing, providing, and protecting for children who have a spirit, soul, and body. So their spiritual well-being, their psychological, soul-based well-being, and their physical well-being. And so the providing of the mother and father is something that's, it's not just that we put a roof over their head, but it is that we take them to church and that we love them, and give them the affirmation that they need, as well as the direction and oftentimes the correction that they need in order to grow. And so that's, the parent, the priest, prophet, and king is, priest can be kind of equated with providing, and king can be equated with governance, and prophet can be equated with protection. None of us are perfect. No father is perfect, no mother is perfect, no family is perfect. So we need to consistently reflect on kind of the revelation of God, because we can consistently grow in our understanding of what it means to walk the donkey. Fathers can do that. Mothers can consistently grow in what it means for them to remain on the donkey throughout the entirety of life. For the same reason we go to Mass, every time we go to Mass, we always see the one sacrifice of Christ on the cross. I remember when I was young and I started going to daily Mass about age 18 or 19, somebody said, "Why do you go to Mass that often?" It's so much the same. It remains the same every time. And I thought to myself, if somebody thinks they go to Mass and they see it as the same, that means God is saying the same thing to us again and again. Why would God say the same thing to us again and again? Except for the fact that we didn't get it the first time. Why do I have to consistently go back to Mass and see poured out on the cross and through the Eucharist? The reason is because when I leave Mass, I sin. And so I have to go back and learn the charity and the inner life of God again, because I always have to recalibrate myself according to that. And I'm never going to be at a point where I can stop. But fathers and mothers can consistently look to the Holy Family and, into the revelation of God, and consistently grow in that in their lives. So that's something that, is good. The mystery of God revealed to us will never be fully understood. It will never be fully exhausted or it will never be like, I got that and now I can move on. It will remain where we just go into do it more deeply and more deeply. And we can be grateful to God as we do that, because it does actually help us, as we progress in following and being disciples to the mysteries which He has revealed. I would also say that it's important now for people to support families. You know, it's important not to support this no-fault divorce that people are thinking about here in Belize at this time. It lets people be irresponsible. The ones who suffer are the children by letting divorce occur in a no-fault way. So that's something that families need to be protected. There are powerful forces in this world, and families are little places, and they're vulnerable. And so it's very, we're very grateful to the church, because the church protects the family. You know, the family, of the many different paths that mankind has in life, the one common path that we all share is family. We all begin in families, even if it's a surrogate family. And the more functional that families are, the more we will have people that that grow up properly with the virtues needed to make society, to keep society good, and the virtues needed to be kind of holy and happy and well integrated. So, if you are out of harm's way and you're already well along the path towards that, be grateful to God, enjoy it, and continue to grow. If you're still at risk, and you're in family struggles, talk to your priest and try to do everything you can to maintain family and provide that structure that children need in order to grow. Family life is really the heart, it's the most important thing. There's an old saying, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And a lot of times people forget that these days. They think we have to get out there, that's what's important. And then they sign on to a corporation or something like that. And they forget family life, and they try to allow, the state to raise their children or something like that. But what's most important is the family. And so we need to work so that we can come home and enjoy the family life. That's really the center of the world.
As we celebrate families, may the Virgin Mary grant that families throughout the world be increasingly fascinated by the evangelical ideal of the Holy Family, so as to become a leaven of a new humanity and of a genuine and universal solidarity. May this season be one of deep reflection and a celebration of love. And that's our news feature. Thanks for watching. For this and more feature stories, you can follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or view on Guadalupe Media Channel 96 on CCV or Channel 64 on CBC. You can also tune in on the radio in your car, home, or office at 101.9 FM, and please be sure to download the Guadalupe Media radio app from Google Play or the App Store. Our Blessed Mother, lead us to Jesus.